annihilate the entire European Jewish population. The scale of death and destruction is unfathomable, but Jewish community...
Hi guys, welcome back again to the channel. I got proposed to during the weekend and I'm so excited like a baby girl that I am. And you guys, the weekend was my birthday. I got proposed to. It was so sweet and overwhelming. And do make sure you send your birthday gifts if you have any for me via the Buy Me Coffee link. I would truly appreciate you guys. I hope I'm not asking for too much, you guys. And today we are going to be checking out another series, World War II, the emergence of Nazism and Holocaust, the Jewish story unpacked. Haven't learned about the World War II. I feel this video is going to be very overwhelming and a bit triggering, but I'm so curious to be learning about this particular series of the World War II. But if you're new here on the channel, I am Stella. Thank you so much for stopping by, and let's get right into today's reaction.
In the first half of the 20th century, Germany was the preeminent intellectual and cultural capital of the world, and Jews were well-integrated citizens. The emergence of Nazism and its leader, Adolf Hitler, changed Europe and led to the greatest destruction that the Jewish people have ever faced, the Holocaust. During the 1920s and 1930s, despite continuing anti-Semitism and occasional pogroms, Jewish communities were a large component of European society. Cities, villages, and towns across Europe boasted significant Jewish populations. In Germany, Jews were leading academics, artists, and politicians, as well as teachers, doctors, farmers, and shopkeepers. During this time, a fringe political movement began gaining ground in Germany, promoting an extremely racist nationalism. They were called the National Socialist Workers' Party, or Nazis, and their leader was a man named Adolf Hitler. Anti-Semitism was foundational to their ideology. In his infamous book Mein Kampf, Hitler called the Jewish people a noxious bacillus that lives as a parasite in the body of other nations. "Once I really am in power," Hitler declared in 1922, "my first and foremost task will be the annihilation of the Jews." In spite of rising support, Hitler and the Nazis initially failed to gain much ground in German parliament. It was not until after the economic collapse of 1929 that the party began to gain real political power. Social turmoil and strife led to a polarized and unstable political climate, and very quickly the Nazi Party became the largest faction in the Reichstag. In January of 1933, Adolf Hitler was appointed Chancellor of Germany. 1 month later, the Nazis claimed that a fire at the Reichstag was started by communists planning an insurrection and used the fear of a communist takeover to abolish constitutional protections. Shortly thereafter, Hitler was given the right to govern without the consent of Parliament, effectively establishing a Nazi dictatorship in Germany. On September 15, 1935, the Nazis passed a series of notoriously racist laws called the Nuremberg Laws, which stripped Jews of their German citizenship, removed all of their political rights, and legally institutionalized their persecution. Many Jews attempted to flee the country, though their options of where to go were very limited. In September of 1939, Germany invaded Poland, officially beginning World War II. In the wake of German military expansion, a campaign of mass murder was carried out on the Jewish population. In towns and villages occupied by the German army, German military and police units, the most infamous being the SS, were instructed to carry out a war of annihilation on the Jews.
I feel like there's no substantial amount of time you listen to this history, especially this part of the history, you don't feel so heartbroken, so emotional. I can just only see pictures in my head. I can only visualize and imagine right now families staying in their home and people just coming to kill them. Like there are some animals or some birds, even animals. Even if they're animals, you what? What? Why this special hatred towards them? Like why the hatred? Like, why?
Nazi soldiers, often with the help of local collaborators, rounded up Jewish men, women, children, and the elderly, took them to mass graves, and shot them to death, murdering. Roughly 2 million Jews within just a few years. To separate and control the Jewish population, the Nazis forced Jews into ghettos, small areas of cities and towns that were walled off from the rest of society. In 1941, it became law that Jews were required to wear a Star of David to identify them at all times. Disease in the ghettos spread like wildfire, and starvation was rampant. In January of 1942, Nazi leadership and representatives from various government ministries met at what came to be known as the Wannsee Conference to coordinate their efforts toward the efficient annihilation of the Jewish people, known as the Final Solution. Deportations to the death camps became the Nazi regime's primary tactic of mass murder. Jews were sent in cattle cars to places like Belzec, Sobibor, and Treblinka, forced into chambers they were told were showers, and gassed to death. Some camps, such as
That's so cruel. Like, literally very cruel. Gas to death? Like, that is the most horrible thing I can ever think of or imagine somebody to do to his fellow human being.
the infamous Auschwitz-Birkenau complex, doubled as labor and death camps, where Jews were forced to work and were then sent to the gas chambers to be murdered. This assembly line of mass murder continued for years, with thousands of Jews murdered every day. In the midst of this mass murder and destruction, despite impossible odds and relentless brutality, many Jews resisted. In the ghettos and camps, prisoners carried out acts of sabotage, smuggled weapons, and organized uprisings. Some fled to the forests, where they formed partisan units, bands of guerrilla fighters that often included both Jewish and non-Jewish fighters united against Nazism. These partisan units blew up trains, sabotaged Nazi operations, and fought head-to-head against German soldiers. Uprisings were waged in numerous ghettos, including in Krakow, Vilna, Bialystok, and Minsk. Spiritual resistance was also present throughout the ghettos and camps. Through observing holidays, studying Torah, upholding Jewish values, creating art, writing poetry, singing songs, spiritual resistors maintained dignity and upheld the strength of the human spirit even in the face of violent hatred, cruelty, and dehumanization. Throughout 1943 and 1944, the Nazis accelerated their genocidal plan. Ghettos were liquidated, and Jews from all corners of Nazi-occupied Europe were deported to death camps and murdered. Finally, in 1945, the Russian army reached and liberated Auschwitz. US forces crossed the Rhine, and by April, Berlin was surrounded. Hitler committed suicide, and Germany unconditionally surrendered to the Allies. By the end of the tragic war, roughly 6 million Jews and 5 million others, including Roma, Poles, homosexuals, the disabled, communists, and political dissidents, had been murdered by Nazis. Villages, cities, and towns throughout Europe that were once home to flourishing Jewish communities were now empty of them. Survivors of the concentration and death camps who tried to return home often found their property seized by their non-Jewish neighbors. With no recourse for reclaiming their homes or possessions, they became refugees, many ending up in displaced persons camps before moving on to form what have since become flourishing Jewish communities in the Americas and the land of Israel. The Holocaust was a brutal campaign of persecution and mass murder carried out by the Nazis and their collaborators in an effort to systematically annihilate the entire European Jewish population. The scale of death and destruction is unfathomable. But Jewish communities have since worked tirelessly to care for survivors, name the lost, build and strengthen Jewish life around the world, and educate younger generations about the horrors of the Holocaust so that it never happens again.
I've always been asking how did Hitler die? How did Hitler die? But I think they just put my mind to how he actually died miserably. I wish he died worse than he did. So why did he commit suicide? Why didn't he let another person take his life since he's that good for for him to make people like pass it off for other people to die? Why did he kill himself? Why? He would have let other person kill him to feel the hurt, to feel how they feel. At the end of the day, he knows. I feel like he was a madman that needed to be burned, but people around him encouraged him to do better and to do worse. Like having seen this, like over 6 million Jews, the disabled, the especially thinking of the disabled right now, did they actually create it themselves? They are born that way. So World War II was one of the maddest and the craziest history to me, because I will always say the cause he started this off was so selfish, was full with racism, he was color blind. Like really, it wasn't called for, just a particular hatred for one part of the people, for a certain people, and then with the power he has, he ripped them off of everything they had, like killed. Do you know what it takes to kill a child, to kill a woman, a grown human? Oh gosh, this is so sad. Like the community has gone through a lot of things. The Jewish community, through reading through history, yeah, they faced a lot of things, a lot of bad things, to be honest. And seeing how strong they are still striving, and they are, it's just at by the mercies of God, really. To be honest, if you give man the authority over you, authority over some certain people, that's when you know how wicked and how cruel and how bad the heart of man can be. Really, this is so sad. The first time I actually stumbled about World War II, the history, I'm not a book kind of person. I do not read any kind of book. And then I saw the book Anne Frank. I picked interest because I wanted to know what it was like living in that era, what it was being a child, being a mother, being a father in such era. Because being parents, there's a responsibility to take care of your kids, responsibility to put people first, but you don't have the strength, you don't have the capacity, because the force is just too heavy. Reading the story of Anne Frank, you guys, is one story I would suggest everybody read. I read that novel, that diary, actually soaking it in tears, because it was so heartbreaking to see how they live in fear, in terror, in despair. Like their life was literally at the hand of other persons. Like, and at the end of the day, it actually broke my heart because Anne Frank died. Really, because this young lady was somebody with vision, somebody with with focus, with dream of becoming a nurse, having a future. Like she had foreseen her future, but the whole incident just ruined it all for her. And looking at that book, there are so many people with like that, with different story, different vision and plan for themselves. Everything was just cut off entirely. Gosh, this is so horrible, like really, really horrible. So heartbreaking, heart-wrenching. No matter the number of times you listen or read about this incident, you just tear up. Like it's so emotional. Gosh, I'm sorry I'm being so mushy and all emotional, but it's just so heartbreaking. The incident is just so horrible. Like I can't fathom it. Like it's so horrible and very dark. Let me know what you think about this video down below. I'll see you guys on my next one. Please do not forget to like, subscribe to the channel. I love you guys. Stay safe, stay healthy. Always feel free, feel happy to help each other. Seeing each other hurt is never a good thing, and it shouldn't be a good thing. I love you guys. Bye.